Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to Front Row Chaos. I'm your host, Travis. It's been a long time since we did another podcast, but we got such a great response from the last guest that I had on, John Thompson, that we're going to do him again. And we're going to talk about all things in the woods and whatever John wants to talk about. And that's what we're going to do today on this episode. So thank you so much for listening to Front Row Chaos. Please hit that like and subscribe button. That means the world to me. It really does. It means that people are listening. People want this content. And so if you could do that, that would be great. This is something that I've always wanted to do, as you probably know. I just love talking to people, getting their perspective, getting what is meaningful to them. And so we're going to do that again today with John Thompson. So here we go. We're going to get John on the phone. This is going to be a phone interview. This is the first time I have done it with the Rodecaster Pro 2. We're going to do it today, and hopefully it works well, and hopefully we can continue to do this for all those people who can't come to the studio because they live far away, and this is what we're going to do. So let's do that right now. We're going to get John on the phone. So just, ladies and gentlemen, I have John Thompson on the phone with me, and like I said, this is a historic event for me because I got a brand new Rodecaster Pro 2, and I've never done this on a phone interview, but John lives quite far from me, and I wanted to get him more for you to hear, so I wanted to get him on the phone, which I figured out how to do, which is not easy, and I have John Thompson, the legendary hunter, on the phone with me. John, thank you for joining me on Front Row Chaos.
You're welcome. Maybe I'll start talking about bears and how I got involved in bear hunting.
Sure.
I was about 21 or 22.
Okay.
I got a chance to go bear hunting with an older fellow that had some dogs and was a good hunter. And we killed a bear. I killed a bear when I went with him first time. And I liked it so much, I started thinking about getting some dogs for myself and going after those bears. I enjoyed it as much as deer hunting, maybe even more at times.
Now, John, I want you to explain to the people out there who have no idea why you would have to have dogs to hunt bear.
Oh.
So explain that, how that works from a layperson standpoint.
Well, the hunting in California, if you're hunting bears, most of it is thick brush.
Okay.
Firs, and trees, pine, like that, but it's thick brush on the ground because there's so much manzanita in California.
Okay.
And you can't track an animal through that manzanita. You'd have to have a dog to pick up the track. There's some huge manzanita fields in California where I hunted that were caused by big forest fires, and now there's a lot of it, and more every year, it seems like. But it's a hard area to have it. Without a dog, it's really hard to track one down. People do it all the time by accident. Usually a person shoots a bear in California if he doesn't have dogs. He's got a tag just in case, and he'll see one by chance. Somebody else has scared it up or something like that. Or if there's a problem with livestock, if the bear's killing livestock, they might be able to get a shot at it wherever the livestock is. But they're hard to find without dogs.
So these bears, they're nocturnal, correct, John? They don't usually come out during the day, or is that not true?
It depends on where you are. If there's no pressure, no humans around, bears will feed in the daytime. I've seen it time and time again.
Okay.
But mostly, especially the older bears, won't come out till after dark, and they usually wind up leaving just before daylight to go back to where they getting one of those manzanita patches or have a bed somewhere and lay up on the hill during the day. But if they're starved for food, they will hunt food day and night.
Okay.
Around some of the forest fires in California and every other state on the West Coast, it's worse and worse every year. And so there's not a lot of feed for a couple of years in an area that gets burned to the ground. In fact, it's highly toxic now. They say that it even infects the animals.
So, John, quick question. For all these people who don't have any clue about bear hunting, you drive in the woods, you see deer on the side of the road and all this kind of stuff. You never see really a bear on the side of the road. So when all these people think that there are no bears here, what do you have to say to that?
There's more bears now than there was when I started hunting. The bears are absolutely thick in California, but part of the reason is they outlawed hunting with dogs in 2013. And it's really taken a toll on some of the things that bears get involved in. There's more bears and there's more not poaching, but more tearing up your garbage cans, breaking into cabins. If you go up to Lake Tahoe and talk to those people up there, every one of them that has a house has got safe locks and special garbage cans, and even then they get raided. People up in Tahoe in the winter have bears hibernate under their $1 million cabins, and if they're greening against hunting, they provide for the bear.
Oh,
and they'll even fix it up to where it's easier for him to get in there and sleep. But the first thing he does when he gets outside is go knock their garbage can over or try to break their door down.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's kind of a. I don't know how many times I've been in Tahoe and knowing people that have cabins there. There's a reason I was over there, and they'd all have their bear story to tell you. One fellow had a $2 million cabin and a girlfriend, and he was a retired guy about 70 years old from the Bay Area, and he had a bear that was so clever it could take his kitchen window apart and get in the house. And he had his girlfriend there one night, and she heard a commotion downstairs, so she got a robe on, and she walked downstairs, and the freezer door was open, the refrigerator door was wide open, and there was a broken can of mayonnaise on the floor.
Oh,
and so she turned around and walked back up and told her boyfriend, "Hey, what did you do? Did you have a mess down there or what?" She thought he did it. And he says, "Hell no, I didn't do it." So he got up and walked down there, and the bear was standing there in the living room watching both of them.
Oh, jeez.
And it wouldn't leave. But he was smart enough. He opened the front door, and they went upstairs and called the police. So the bear left without anything. But it was back every day down there, and lots of other cabins besides his were hit.
Well,
and it's pretty costly.
John, I don't know if you heard the other day on the news, but there was a couple of guys, I think in Tahoe is where it was, and they decided to get a bear suit and have their buddy tear up their Mercedes Benz and then turn it for an insurance claim.
I saw that. And there was a poor excuse for a wild adventure.
Yeah, poor excuse. It's like you could have did without the bear costume and probably got away with it, but you got the bear costume on and everybody said, "That's not a bear, that's a human in a costume, you moron."
Yeah. That didn't go very far.
No.
Didn't go very far at all.
Well, you have been the guy, like I said in the last show that we did together, you have been the guy that has been in the woods more than anybody that I know, or anybody that I know knows. You have been the guy. I mean, if we wanted to go into the woods and you wanted a report on something, you would call John Thompson. He knew. I mean, this guy, I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, if I told John, "Hey, I'm going to go hunt in Wyoming. Oh, go down this road, turn right at this pine tree, and there's a good area right there." I might be like, "Are you kidding me?" No matter where I went, John was the guy who'd been there and done that. I mean, he has guided in Alaska. And John, you told us a couple of stories last time about when you were in Alaska about the wolverine and how ferocious that beast is.
They are. They're very, very, most destructive animal in Alaska is a wolverine because they have scent glands like a skunk.
Oh, jeez.
And once they break into your cabin and ruin everything, they spray the whole outfit. So you can't hardly stand to go in there and clean it up.
Oh, jeez.
The funny thing about wolverines is they've never seen a dog in the wild. And I've been with people that had a Labrador up there, which was a hard thing to do because it's going to bring a grizzly bear maybe to you
Okay.
when the bear comes after him. But when a wolverine gets in a tangle with a Labrador or big dog,
Yeah.
they climb a tree.
Really?
They didn't want. Yeah, they don't want any part of it. They climb a tree. It's funny because they'd never seen a dog. They don't know what they're dealing with. But I've seen one wolverine run 2 bears off of a kill, and it took that wolverine 6 or 7 times running and jumping through the air and landing on the back of the neck of the grizzly bear, and the grizzly bear's rolling around. That wolverine's biting it the whole time, knocks the wolverine off, and the wolverine recovers again, comes back and jumps on the other one.
Oh, man.
And finally, after about an hour, those two bears left. It was a sow with a big cub with it.
I don't know if I asked you this last time, John, but can you think of a better mascot for a high school team than a Wolverine?
Oh, Wolverines deluxe. I mean, they are the meanest thing. Animal-wise, they're one of the meanest things in the woods, and they don't forget either. If you had trouble with them and you shot at them or beat them up or something around a cabin, they'll come back.
They'll come back.
They will. They'll come back and get you.
They're glutton for punishment.
Most people in Alaska, a lot of them, they close up all their hunting sites during the winter because it's such a miserable winter up there. You can't even get in to get one out sometimes if the guy's stuck there for the winter. But so you got something like that to put up with. Wolverines don't hibernate.
Now, John, in your opinion, are wolverines here in the lower 48?
Yes.
Okay.
I've watched films of it. My dad saw one in 1970 or 71 at Susanville out by Eagle Lake.
Okay.
And he was with another accomplished hunter that had been a hunter all his life. The two of them were in a hunting for deer, just kind of road hunting, looking around. It was when he was older. And a big wolverine came out and took a look at him and ran down the road ahead of him. They followed it for a ways.
Wow.
And my dad knew what they looked like. He'd seen them before because he used to ski in Tahoe back in the 30s. And there was wolverines. There's still wolverines. There's at least 2 families of wolverines in Truckee, right next to Truckee.
Oh.
And they take pictures of them every year, and they have them on the local TV channels.
Wow.
Yeah, I've watched those, and they're a beautiful animal.
Oh, yeah. They're really what is a wolverine, John? 35, 40 pounds? What are they, in your opinion?
A big one.
A big one.
Is about 40. Big one would be a maximum 40, 45 pounds.
Wow.
Most of them are about 30 pounds.
And
I've had them try to attack me when I was getting game off of an animal. I'd go to camp and dump some game off in the camp and hang it, take care of it. Walk back to get the rest of it, and there's a damn wolverine standing there on top of it. And he's going to charge you, And there was me and another guy. We both had our pistols. I had a Casull 454, and the other guy had a 44 Magnum. And this wolverine's making bluff charges at us, trying to get us to leave.
Oh, jeez.
And I wished I'd had a wolverine tag. I would have tagged him, but
yeah.
I didn't have a wolverine tag.
Well, on a separate note, John, since you bring up the Casull, I remember when your son Steve and I went to a shooting range. Indoor shooting range, and I don't know if it was in Chico or Yuba City, but it was one of the two. And Stevie brought that Casull with us, and he started shooting that into the backdrop. And the guy comes running out and said, "You're blowing my freaking backdrop apart. You can't shoot that thing." It was so bad. It would just blow pieces of the whole backdrop off when he shot that gun because it was so mean.
That was a devastating pistol. I wish I'd never sold it, but I worked for the Navy, and we were training Navy SEALs on 4-wheel drive and other programs too. And the Master Chief of the SEALs was a famous SEAL. He'd been in several wars, and he wanted to shoot that gun. And after he shot it, he says, "I want to buy it." And I said, "I don't want to sell it." And he says, "No," he says, "I got to have that gun. I'm retiring, and I want to take that gun with me wherever I go." And he'd shoot it 5 times fast, which was, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, I sold it to him, and I of all the big calibers I had, that was the best. 44 Magnum is it gets you by. They're a strong pistol, but the 454 Conceal was twice as powerful.
Twice as powerful.
And then after I sold it to the SEAL, I bought a 500 Smith & Wesson, and it was a great gun. It shot good, hit things hard too, but it weighed 5 pounds when you had the bullets in it.
Oh.
And I was getting kind of old, and it was like packing two guns if I took my rifle with me, and I'd rather have a rifle than a pistol. So, and I'm back to a 44 Magnum, but I found one that was 21 and a half ounces made out of titanium, and I bought it.
Oh.
And it gets me by. I've been charged by black bears with it. I had one grizzly bear charge me. I killed a moose with it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I killed a moose with it. It was crippled, but it only had a shot through the ribs.
Gotcha.
We were going to have troubles, but I didn't stop it. Usually in Alaska, when you guide a person for something that's potentially dangerous, if they can't knock it down after they've started shooting, then the guide steps in and helps.
Okay.
And I never had anybody, after stepping in with a bear charge, and I never had a guy say he was mad at me for shooting the bear.
No. Hey, John, when you're in Alaska and you're a guide, what is your first go-to gun that you use?
It depends on what you're hunting.
Okay,
if you're hunting caribou.
Let's say the grizzly's coming at you. What are you going?
Well, you don't want to get ate up on a grizzly bear hunt, so most people bring some kind of 300 Magnum is where to start. And
now, is that 45-70 in that range, or is that not good enough?
No, the 45-70 is a close range gun.
Okay.
But they'll kill a big grizzly bear out to 100 yards with the bullets they have now.
Okay.
And I love my 45-70. I've killed grizzly bears with it. I've killed moose with it. I've killed lots of deer. And it's a neat gun, and they've made them even neater now because they've designed ammunition that makes them a better gun. You can get 2,400 feet a second out of it.
So if you're guiding a guy on a grizzly bear hunt in Alaska, John, what is the gun that you're packing to defend you and the hunter from the grizzly?
Usually I would carry my 375 H&H.
375 H&H, okay.
Yeah, and I would shoot 300 grain bullets in it, and I never had anything keep coming closer after I shot it with that. They question mark and they stop. They may not be dead, but they quit the charge.
Gotcha.
And depending on where you hit them, if you gut shoot one, it's going to keep on coming. But if you hit it and break a shoulder, especially in the front end of a grizzly bear, it slows down their avenue of speed. If you shoot them in the back leg, you won't even know that they're hurt.
Okay.
You run on 3 legs using the back one.
John, we talked to you many times before we went to Cody, Wyoming to hunt deer. And we would be out there walking the trail, freaking a mile from the truck. We all had deer rifles, basically 300s and 30-06s and 7 mags.
Yeah.
You're walking that trail and you come across a grizzly and he is hell-bent on causing you harm. What do you do in that situation? We never, luckily, ever came across that. We were close at times, I know, but we never did. But if you were us, what would you do if that grizzly started to charge? Where would you shoot it, and what would you do?
If you have time and it's the start of the charge, a bear can go 30 miles an hour for a short distance.
Okay.
So if he charges you from 150 feet, you've got about 2 seconds to get your gun up and shoot. Otherwise, you're going to be right on top of it, and then it's harder to hit him where you can stop him. If you shoot a bear in the head coming straight towards you, its head is angled along and a pretty thick skull. The bullet will actually move up the skull and out the back without even getting in the brain.
Oh, boy.
But the slower, bigger guns don't do that. They'll just plow through wherever they hit with the bullet. And most of your bigger guns that are a little slower are 45-70, the ones with a blunt tip that you have to have a blunt tip on a bullet or it'll blow up if you have a pointed tip in a one that
which is what most of us are
magazine.
packing when we're deer hunting, right? We're not packing, that kind of stuff. So we always wondered about that, and I wanted to talk to you about that to see what would you do in that situation. I mean, a lot of us are, we're carrying a sidearm, a 44 or a 357 or something like that. But I mean, do you go for the 44 or do you go for the deer rifle that's in your hand?
You use a long gun. It's so much easier to hit an animal, especially when you're scared or in a bad situation. You're far better off with a rifle than a pistol.
Okay.
I've seen people miss a black bear 5 times with a pistol coming down the side of a tree, and they never hit it. And they're standing 15 yards away or 10 yards away. That people get excited. A lot of people can't shoot a pistol when they're excited and hit anything.
Yeah.
That's why you got to kind of feel a person out in camp. I've been with other people that every shot they could kill something with that pistol as well as a rifle out to 50 yards.
Okay.
But a pistol is a short range thing, and it's far easier to get a lethal shot into any animal coming after you with a rifle.
Now, in the worst case scenario, John, let's say you don't have the kind of time you just explained to me, and that bear gets on top of you. What do you do? What would be your reaction to something like that?
Well, the first thing you want to do is roll up and not move and play dead. If the bear's going to get you, he's going to get you. But if you roll up and cover your insides and bring your feet and knees right up to your head and just buckle up into a tightest ball as you can get and not let go, then they'll bite you and they'll hurt you, but they'll usually be in an arm. They can get an arm loose a lot easier than they can leg because you're all balled up and you have to. I've had friends that have been bitten by bears, and you're lucky if you get out of it without permanent injuries. A lot of people in Alaska are killed every year by bears.
Yeah.
But you know what? Moose kill more than
moose do.
In Alaska.
Moose do.
Every year in Alaska, the kids go to school. It's dark in the winter. They walk down to the bus stop in the dark. There'll be a moose standing there with his couple of cows. He doesn't like it, and he'll rip through the kids and wind up killing somebody.
Oh boy!
They've got a professor from Alaska State University in Anchorage. He was walking to school because he had lived close to the college, and this moose come up, a cow, chased him up to the door, and it was locked. And when he tried to get his key in, that moose hit him with a front hoof and killed him instantly.
Oh
hit him in the
boy!
head. Yeah, I've had a moose kick at me, a cow moose, with a small one with her.
Yeah.
And I saw the foot stop right in front of my face.
Oh, jeez.
And I never forgot it. I was taking a nap watching a big grizzly bear on the side of the hill. I was waiting for the other people to bring their hunter in so that I could take him and kill the bear. And we were in the grass, me and the other guy, and it was cold, but we laid down on the grass there. It was just stupid. And we're waiting, just kind of relaxing, and next thing I heard a noise, and when I sat up, that cow kicked at me, and they're 7 feet in the air when they're walking.
Oh, yeah.
And that foot came so close to me, I'll never forget it. I could see the whole thing for a second. And the little calf squealed and took off running, and the cow went with her.
Oh boy!
If she would have come and got on top of me, she'd probably killed me.
Oh man, though they are a dangerous animal. I've heard of that before, but you always think about the grizzly or the brown bear, whatever you want to call it, is the biggest, meanest thing out there. But these moose, when they're in their mating season, they're really dangerous.
They're dangerous all the time.
Really?
They always have a chip on their. They have a chip on their shoulder, and they're so big. The way they escape is kick your ass and then go if they're scared to death. I've talked to a lot of people who have been hurt by moose over the years up there. And sure, people are killed and eaten by bears, but it's usually a black bear that'll eat you after you're dead. The grizzly bears are just killing you because they were scared, and their first action is to react to it. They'll react with a charge and mauling.
Now, in your opinion, John, when a grizzly bear charges, is the first charge a fake, or is it going to come at you and knock you down?
Well, I don't know. You got to figure it out yourself. If one charges you from 12 yards or 15 yards, you might have time to get the gun up and get one good shot. And you don't want to shoot them in the head. You shoot them right in just below the base of the head, where it'll go in and hit the neck and get into the war room, and tear up stuff. Because if you shoot them in the head and the bullet ricochets off, you're going to really be in a world of trouble when that bear jumps on you doing 30 miles an hour.
That bullet hitting them in the head doesn't knock them out? They just shake it off?
It depends. If they turn their head sideways, then it's a different story. You can shoot them in the side of the head. It's flat, and the bullet will really shock them, or it'll go clear through, depending on what you're shooting them with.
Okay.
My 45-70, I shoot some 410 to 430 grain bullets. They're hard cast lead with 10 antimony in it. It's antimony. And these guys are making them up like Buffalo Boar has excellent stuff for dangerous game. And the one that just moved to Reno from Oregon, Grizzly Ammo, they have the same kind of ammunition. And if you're going to be in the woods with a pistol, you want to buy a box of their ammunition. It'll penetrate. It'll go skull to skull through a black bear.
Oh wow!
Even with a 357 can get through their head. When I'm trout fishing and stuff, I've got a 357 I carry with 180 grain bullets, the hard antimony lead, and I'll tell you what, you're going to go, even if you shot one in the side, it'll go out the other side.
Wow. Well, that's good to know.
Don't take hollow points. All it does is piss them off. You're lucky to get a quick kill shot with a 357 on a bear, unless it's a small bear, or you get a shot at the side where it's not charging you.
Yeah. Well, if you're in the woods, John, and you're a normal guy, what sidearm are you carrying just for protection from bears?
It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm deer hunting, I just carry my my rifle, because I don't want all that extra weight.
Sure, but if you're in bear country and you got to carry a sidearm, what is your preferred sidearm to protect you against bears?
Safety-wise, you want to start with a 44 Magnum.
Okay.
A 41 Magnum isn't bad. If some people can shoot a 41 Magnum, they have a good heavy bullet too. I've got one.
Oh, wait. I've never heard of a 41, John. I heard a 44, 357. What's a 41?
It's the same thing as a 44, but it's 41 caliber. And Elmer Keaton, the guy that invented the 44 Magnum and got it on the market, he came out with the 41 about 5 years after the 44.
Oh.
Because a lot of people couldn't handle the kick of a 44 Magnum.
Okay.
The 41's about 3/4 of what a 44 Magnum is, but you get bullets up to 300 grains, and if you've got your shells loaded really tight, that'll kill them.
Okay.
My son's carried my 41 Magnum for years, and he's finished off so many black bears that weren't hurt very bad, that were running around mad. And he's done it all with the 41 Magnum, and you know my son Scott.
Oh yeah.
He's not afraid of anything. He'll stand there till the bear gets right up to him.
That's Scott.
He had a bear. He had a bear with our best dog down in the water at Little North Fork, drowning the dog. The dog had his front teeth knocked out, and he had him by the head underwater, shaking him. And Scott ran up there, and he had a pilot that flew an F-18 for the Navy. We were living in Fallon then. And they got up to where the dogs were, and here was this dog killing our best dog. Scott jumped in the river, waded up, it was about waist deep, got out there, and the bear dropped the dog and tried to get him, and he grabbed it by the front of hit it as hard as he could in the nose to stop it, and he had the gun in the other hand, and he shot it through the head sideways behind the ear.
Wow, what a Western, Johnny, what a Western.
that I never heard a guy talk like that. The Navy guy, when we got down there, he was so riled up, he says, "I'll never go on a bear hunt again." I said, "Hey, you're a decorated pilot." No, he says, "You don't understand. I don't even see the people I'm killing." He said, or what I'm killing. He said, "I got to see it for firsthand." He said, "That I couldn't believe it." It was a big bear. It was Well, I've got the bear mounted in the house here,
Oh,
just because of the story.
Well,
I was there, but I didn't get there. Susie and me were there, but we didn't get there as fast as Scott and the guy from the Navy.
Well, I tell you what,
But,
you guys, you're out there in this world of podcast land. You don't know John Thompson. He used to own a service station in Gridley, and he had all kinds of mounts from all over the world. John is that kind of guy. When he has this to show for it, he means it. I mean, he has mounts all over. I mean, his house is full of them. Correct, John?
I had to get rid of a lot of my mounts
You
because
did.
I moved over here and I didn't have room for them.
That's true.
And so I sold some. I gave some to a couple of people that had stores that wanted to put them in the stores. I hated to sell anything like that would have been mine, you know.
Exactly.
But,
I get it.
I've kept a couple of big ones that I and with a story behind it.
Yeah.
And Susie's killed as many mounts on the wall as I have. And
well, Susie's a trooper. She's always been a trooper. You know.
Oh yeah, she saved my bacon. A bear came after me and my gun jammed. And she had a gun and she shot the bear and knocked it down so that I could get my gun unjammed and finish it off. And your dad was there.
My dad.
Ask your dad for that story. He can tell you. You can hear the whole thing.
That's great.
I was sick with Lyme disease and Susie wouldn't let me go in the woods unless I had another guy with us.
Okay.
So I talked to Dad into going bear hunting. I don't think he wanted to go, but he went because we were good friends. And he got in on a Western there.
Dad said, I'll never forget what we did on that trip. But I want you, John, since you're here to tell that story.
Well, okay, you want me to start from scratch?
Yeah, go for it.
It was 1981.
Holy crap. You can remember that, John? I can't remember what I did 10 years ago. It's insane. That's awesome.
It was 1981. I remember things by other things. And I was sick with Lyme disease.
Wait. Hold on, John. Where did you get Lyme disease?
I wished I knew. I tell you, I was in the brush in French Creek in the spring chasing bears.
Okay.
That's probably where I got it. I talked to everybody in Alaska, and nobody has had any problems with it up there. So I'm sure I got it. Pretty sure I got it in the springtime.
Okay.
In California.
All right. Now I didn't mean to get off on the tangent on that, but I just want to know where you think you got it. So go ahead and do your story. But that's curious to me where you think you got it.
Well, to start with, that was a big bear. That was one of the probably 10 biggest bears I ever saw in my life.
And that's huge for John to say that, right? I mean, you've seen so many bears. This is a big bear.
This bear was, there's big bears and then there's really big bears in California. And when I say really big bears, I mean 500 plus.
Okay.
And this bear was a 500 plus. I was there hunting deer, and bear season was open, but I didn't take the dog. I was so sick, and I found this bear track 10 miles from Orville, where I was hunting deer.
Oh, wow.
And so Susie was with me, and I said, Susie, we've got to come back and hunt that bear. He had a feet as big as a pie plate.
Oh, jeez.
I could get both of my feet inside and still see a little bit of the outside on the one side. Oh boy. And anyway, so Susie said, "Well, okay, we'll get somebody and we'll go next weekend." Well, I couldn't. I was trying everybody I knew and nobody could go. I got a hold of your dad and he said, "Well, yeah, I'll go," but he didn't sound too anxious about it. We got up there and we got on that bear. I found his track, got on him, run him up and down the mountain about 3 times, and he got away from us. But the dogs were on him, though. And I come around the corner, and here was another bear hunter I knew, and he flagged me down. He said, "John, are you hunting in here?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Have you got a bear treat?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I just came from the tree." He said, "John, that thing is a monster." He said, it made me stand up and think about things. He said, "It didn't even look like a black bear."
Oh,
and I said, "Well," so he told us where it was, and it was down in a little real steep canyons where we couldn't hear the barks coming out.
Yeah.
And we went up there, and there was this bear sitting in the tree. So far, nice, I mean, he didn't want to act like he didn't want to attack us. So I talked to Susie, and I talked to your dad, and your dad had a 30-06, and Susie had a 44 Magnum rifle. And so I said, well, why don't both of you shoot it? Because this bear's bigger. We may have trouble with it. So, and we all had bear tags. It didn't matter who.
Sure. Yeah.
So they both shot, and that bear immediately grabbed the tree, started coming down.
Oh boy!
I had a Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum.
Now wait, hold on, John. You say they shot him, and he starts coming down the tree. So he's just boom, boom.
They shot him. They shot him through the chest with a 30-06 and a 44 Magnum. I could see the hair fly. And he started down the tree, and I ran over there to close. I wanted to get to the tree. Got my pistol out, and when he hit the ground about 6 feet away, I just was going to put one right through him and maybe more. My gun jammed.
Oh my God!
I was pulling the trigger so hard it wouldn't go off. And I'm backing up, and Susie saw what was going on, and she shot and hit it from 10 feet away, and it dropped. It started trying to get up again. Well, I looked down at my gun, and I had an oak branch stuck through the where the cylinder rotates.
No.
And I almost sheared it completely off, but it was stuck in that gun hard enough that I grabbed her gun and finished it off.
Well, John, if people don't understand the chaos that is going on in that moment, the dogs are going ape. It is absolutely, if you've never been there, which I know a lot of you never have, but if you're in that situation, if a bear falls out of a tree or if a bear's coming down, the dogs are going nuts. Correct, John? I mean, it's like chaos. It's like you don't know what the hell's going on.
The closer it gets to the ground, the more chaos there is.
Oh, yeah.
I always try to tie my dogs up or have somebody hold them away from the hunt.
Sure.
Between me and the tree, behind me. And I'm between them and the tree where the bear's coming from. But a scary deal happened to us, Susie and me and Scott, in California the last year of the season, 2012. I had to guide the two-star admiral from the base in Fallon. He was a hunter, he'd been hunting everywhere. And he had a 7mm Magnum. And I said, well, that's okay. I said, sometimes those guns are so powerful and quick, they shoot right through an animal, and you don't get a lot of the hurt from the shell.
Gotcha.
You don't get the whack. So we treated a bear, and I told him we'd wait until we found a big one, and we found a big one, about 350 pounds. We walked up there to the tree, but Scott and Susie didn't take a gun because they hadn't bought a license.
Okay.
So they couldn't carry a gun. So I had my pistol. I should have taken my rifle, but he had a 7mm Magnum, and I thought, well, he's been a hunter all his life. He knows where to shoot him. And we got up to the tree, and I'm looking at it, and I take him up the hill a little ways where he's got about a 25-yard shot. And he said, where should I shoot it, John? I said, shoot it right behind the shoulders. If that doesn't work, try shooting it through the shoulders. And he said, okay. So I got down below the tree, and I had my 44 Magnum waiting. And he fired, and immediately I saw blood coming down the tree a little, spraying down. And I said, what's going on? He says, he just turned and looked at me after I fired. That's all he did. And I said, well, shoot him again. And he shot him again, and the same thing. The bear just hung on tighter. So then he said, what should I do? And I said, well, shoot it again. I can't even see it. Yeah, I couldn't see it from where I was. He shot it the third time, and it started coming down the tree. And I said, well, shoot it again. He said, I'm out of bullets. I said, you're out of bullets? And he said, I only brought 3 in my gun. I didn't think I'd need more. So I didn't talk to him anymore. But when the bear got down near the ground, I shot it with the 44 and knocked it off the tree, but it was only 10 feet away. And it got up, and I've never seen a bear do that, but it opened its mouth wide open and charged right at me.
Oh, boy.
So I fired the 44 into its open mouth and knocked it down to its knees, but then it tried to get up and come again, so I shot it again, and that time it killed it.
Wow.
And Susie and Scott and the dogs were behind me, and I mean, there would have been some people hurt and dogs hurt if that thing was still alive by the time it came down the tree shot like that.
Well,
but what they don't realize, a 7mm Magnum at that range shoots right through something. You rarely ever get a shot
just right through. Doesn't do a lot of damage. Just goes right through.
Right. Anything with the speed of over 2,800 feet a second.
Oh.
It's got enough power to go through an animal. A deer, too. A lot of people shoot a deer and it runs off. Sometimes they don't find them.
That's true.
They might be dead, but Sometimes they fall down. They are dead. Getting shot in the heart's pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but the bears are tougher.
Well, John,
That's why.
back to the bear that you killed with my dad. I'm looking at it right now on the wall. I still have the head mount on the wall. And I remember when you guys came into town, that bear was pretty big on the back of your truck.
Well, it was almost 8 feet squared. Didn't quite make 8 feet. I mean, the biggest one I've ever caught, black bear in California, was 8'2".
Oh wow!
So it was going to be a bigger bear than the one that your dad and Susie and I got. It was only about 6 years old, and I couldn't believe it when I saw him. And I had a guy from Italy and 2 guys from Norway.
Oh,
and it was the most fun I ever had. Most fun I ever had bear hunting. All 3 of them got bears, but the guy from Italy got the monster.
Oh boy!
and he didn't really care. Those guys, it wasn't impressive to them because they didn't realize what kind of bear they were dealing with.
Sure. Yeah.
The other guy, the one Norwegian guy, got a nice, about a 300-pound bear the day before we got this big one, and the 300-pounder was tore all to hell. He had claw marks all over his face and a couple of bite marks on his body. He'd gotten in a fight with this big one because we were hunting the same area.
Oh.
And but we got it before we got the big one. So I'm saying, man, there must be somebody on this hill's got some weight. I said, look at what happened to this bear. They were both boars.
Well,
and
that's yeah. Go ahead.
The guy, it's kind of funny because these guys could barely speak English, but they were funny. They were going to the University of San Francisco just to stay out of the draft in Italy.
Oh, jeez.
And if you could keep clear of the draft and go to college, so you were 25, you didn't have to go in the draft.
Oh.
And they had mandatory 2-year draft in Italy at that time.
Gotcha.
So and they weren't even there to go to school. If they were more shysters than anything, they would spend the whole year in California buying 60s cars, 1960 race cars and stuff, Chevys, Corvettes. They'd take, the one guy's dad had a shipping line. They owned 11 ship freighters that traveled between the United States and Europe.
Oh.
So they'd get them all shipped home for nothing and then sell them for big money in Norway and Italy. They could name their price.
Well, you took a lot of big names. I know you took a couple of the Kings players and all that kind of stuff when I was younger. I mean, you took all kinds of people bear hunting, and it was like I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted to know what was going on in the woods, the first stop would be at the Chevron station in Gridley to talk to Johnny. Period. Right, John?
Well, yeah, and you're talking about this like it's always a success. Sometimes it isn't.
Oh, sure.
Sometimes those bears don't stop. They head for the rottenest canyon in the country, and it takes you 3 days to round the dogs up.
What?
Not very often. The older I got and the better the dogs I had all the time, it was less and less that I had that problem.
Sure.
But you never knew where you were going to end a bear hunt when you started.
But I wanted to tell the people from a layman's perspective, mine, when I would go on a bear hunt with Johnny and my best friend Steve and his brother, you have no idea what it's like. I just want you to picture you on a mountain road with Johnny driving, and we turn the dogs loose. First of all, the dog is sitting on top of the box, and the box is a big box in the back bed of the truck. The dog is there because he has a nose like no other dog. He can find a scent of a bear. And once he starts to bark, we let him down from the back of the truck. We let him walk around. Johnny sees the track, gets the dog in the direction that the bear is going, not the direction the bear has went. And if that dog starts going crazy, he starts letting more dogs out. And then when that happens, it is an absolute rodeo. Johnny is driving the mountain roads like he's Mario Andretti and stopping every so often, shutting the truck off and cupping his ears so that he can hear where the dogs are. Is that correct, John? Am I got a good explanation of what a bear hunt's like?
Yeah, it is. That's pretty close to it.
That's what I've witnessed.
In a perfect world, you get to hear the whole race from the truck.
Yes.
But it's not a perfect world when you bear hunt.
No.
We had a bear that I ran from Bald Rock to Bloomer Mountain, which is just next to Oroville, and we treed that thing, but we couldn't get in there. There's no roads. And Bloomer Mountain has no roads around the bottom side of the lake. So I called home and had somebody bring me a boat. And I took one of the guys from Italy, threw him in the boat with me, and it wasn't a very big boat, so I didn't want to take a whole gang.
Sure.
And I wanted Scott. I left Scott with a truck in case the dogs something happened and they came back, but they didn't. They had this bear treed, and it was on Bloomer Mountain. Anyway, we got around to where we could hear them treed, and we started up the hill, just straight up. We come to a giant marijuana farm.
Oh no!
There was 150, 200 plants, 10 feet tall. And there was signs of people in there harvesting it because there was stuff cut all over the ground.
Oh,
and this guy from Norway, he goes crazy and he was going to put it in his backpack or something. I said, don't do that. I said, there could be somebody here looking at us right now that we don't know about. And you start dealing with their crop, they're going to kill you.
That's right.
And so we went on up to the dogs, and when we got to the dogs, we heard a big inboard start down in the next canyon, down straight below us, and roar out of there. So I know that was those guys.
Oh boy!
And anyway, we killed the bear. The guy killed the bear. We drug it down the hill through the marijuana because you couldn't go around it too steep. Got back in the boat, and they hadn't broke our boat, and which thank God, because they could have destroyed the boat. And
Sure.
we would have been stuck there till we walked out. But and you've been around some of that country around Lake Oroville. It's steep.
Oh, it's steep as crap. It's steep. Yeah, goes straight down to the water. You're right. It's steep.
Yeah,
it's steep, man.
But anyway, we got out of there and got the bear, and the guy had a story to tell.
Oh boy, that sounds like. And I remember you used to go up with Chaplin. You guys would go up on a helicopter ride, and you'd show him all the pot farms that you would find over the years.
I would keep him informed where he was always a busy guy.
That's right.
If you got a call from me, it's either I wanted to use taking me in the helicopter, or I wanted to tell him where there was a crop.
Now,
you know what?
Yeah.
I tried to stay out of those. If I found a crop of marijuana when it started, I would go around it and just say, oh, hell, usually it was just a little bit.
Yes.
But then when they started growing for sale for big, you'd catch 200-300 plants in one spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And fish hooks hanging on all the limbs around the outside of it, so that in case you tried to get in there, you'd get hooked by a fish hook.
Yeah.
Just different things. And Ron Chaplin was the head of the drug division in Duke County, and he flew a helicopter, and he had more stuff than he could get around to as far as marijuana plants.
Yeah.
What really happened that made it dangerous was they started cooking meth in the same places. And when they started doing that, if you found one and they were there, they'd kill you.
They'd kill you, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just nuts.
Chaplin told me there was so many people on Bloomer Mountain they figured were buried from drug wars that they had a U-2 with spy cameras.
Yeah. Fly
the grid on the Bloomer Mountain just to see, and they found 22 hot spots.
Oh
that something was buried, but it was hard to find them when you got on the ground, and some of them were probably 2 or 3 years old, and they'd grown grass over them, and you didn't even know anybody was planted there.
Well, Johnny, nowadays, do you think it's just as bad up there?
Well, from what I've heard, I haven't been up there. It's worse.
Oh.
They're letting them grow now. They don't fool with them. They just let them grow it.
Yeah.
Steve, my son, flew with somebody. It's been about 2 or 3 years ago, when they were still in California, and they found marijuana after marijuana after marijuana, and I forget, but I think the district attorney was on that flight and said, "Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it."
Oh, what a deal!
And now anybody that uses any kind of hard drugs, you don't know what they put in it.
No, you don't.
They're putting fentanyl.
No.
They're putting fentanyl and all these drugs to jack it up to where you get a better high. Well,
That's right.
It kills people.
That kills them.
So
exactly.
It's like shaking the dice. You do it enough, you're going to get
bad pill.
broke.
Yep, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
You're going to get it. And
I heard now that they can even, here in Nevada, they can even, they'll dice up marijuana with fentanyl. Just spice it up like they were putting salt on something. and high enough to where it has killed people.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't take many milligrams of fentanyl to kill you.
No,
I mean, you've heard that, you know.
Yeah, cops being around it even get been sick, almost died.
Well, Johnny,
they carry those special shots.
Yes.
That you give somebody.
Yes.
That can bring them out of it, but you got to get to them quick before they stop breathing.
That's right. My son, who's a deputy sheriff for Butte County, has had to administer that several times to people.
Has he really?
He has. Yeah. I forget the name of the dang thing, but you're right. There's something they carry to counteract the effects of fentanyl so that you don't die. Unfortunately, sometimes I wish that they wouldn't carry it, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. But that's what it is.
Well, it's something they're never going to get out of the system as far as laws.
No.
Marijuana's here to stay, but with the fentanyl, it was in the 100,000 people I think got killed last year from it.
Oh yeah,
and several others sick. It's a real problem.
It's a real problem.
Stop it if they can stop it from coming in, because it all comes from China.
That's right.
Manufactured in China.
That's right. And it comes through our southern border and just right in.
I found I had a hunting partner that went in every now and then, Bob Sage. And we were up looking for more bears because we had some people coming for the weekend. And I drove in this one road up by Bald Rock that I'd had good luck on before. There was always a bear in there. And we come around the corner, and here's this smokestack coming up out of the ground with a manhole about 10 feet down the other end of it. And it had the manhole cover on. And there was 4 or 5 50-gallon drums full of shit on pallets. And I started to get out of the car, and Bob says, "John, get back in the car." And he said, "Get in now." And I shut the door, and there was 2 Rottweilers come up and banged against the door trying to bite me.
Oh, man.
And these people would leave those dogs there to scare people off.
They would, yeah. Well, John, we've talked about bear hunting. And all this time you spent in the woods, the last time we talked, like I said, we talked about the red-haired giants. We talked about some Bigfoot stories, but I don't know if you have more to add to that, but I'd like to switch to that if you have anything else that you want to say about those instances.
There's not a lot I can say about it, except that I've seen a couple of shows on TV, and you can't reliably authenticate something like that.
Sure.
But it's about the red-haired giant. Some of the stories of red-haired giants in the hills. They found a woman. And I knew this because I'd read this from a reputable book. They found a woman, red-haired giant, and a newborn baby in Yosemite, and the cave was sealed off.
Really?
These gold miners. These gold miners had found it, and apparently this red-haired giant gal had given birth and died, and the baby was dead too, and they were both wrapped up in some kind of ornamental stuff.
Mm-hmm. And
in there, and then they rolled a great big rock that weighed about 500 pounds in the face of the cave, and those things were around like 1,000 years ago, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. There was enough of the woman and the body to tell what they were.
Oh, wow!
Nothing had got in the cave, and so the skeletal features were all there. They weren't tore up.
Wow.
But that's one thing. They found a lot of them in Iowa, in what they call the mounds, and it's in southern Iowa. My grandmother grew up near that place.
Okay.
She didn't know anything about red-haired giants. They found a lot there. There was mounds, and they dug down into them, and there was big caves in there, and a lot of high up people in the thing are buried together. The kings, when they died, were all buried together.
Mm.
And and then in New York they found a spot in the Catskill. I think it was Catskill, one of the mountain ranges, they found over 100 bodies of red-haired giants that had been buried.
John, all the time you spent in Alaska, all the time you spent in the woods after dark, did you see things? I mean, that sky in Alaska has got to be wide open at night. You're there.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's around. I mean, what can you tell us about those experiences where you have witnessed something or seen something or heard something that was just not right in your head?
Well, a couple of times I've had people sneak in and try to sneak stuff out of camp, and I had to get up with a gun because it was usually local people, and there was no houses on the river. One house on the river in 100 miles.
Oh, wow.
So the people that were doing it were maybe natives from down on the ocean side.
Okay.
Dillingham area. There was a couple of big tribes down there, and they sometimes they were friendly, but sometimes they weren't. And you never wanted to trust them around your boat. Scott, my son, got into a situation with the bears that made all the major newspapers in Alaska. He went in with Monty Ford, you know Monty.
Yeah.
And he was working for Monty, and they were setting up a big camp on this river, the Halitna River, I think. And that was only about 20 miles from where I did a lot of hunting, but I never got up to the Halitna because it was people would always screw with your outfit, and you had to leave somebody in camp all day to protect it.
Now, what would they do, John? Why would they do that? Are they just poor? They just want something, or what?
They didn't want anybody else in that country.
Oh.
And Scott had been in there about a week. He had 2 camps, and he had 12 mattresses, everything the fire made. He had 2 boats there. He was sleeping early in the morning, and he heard somebody starting to pound down by his boat with a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
He jumped up, grabbed his shotgun, ran down, and the natives, there was 4 natives, and they were poking holes in the bottom of the boats. And he racked around in and said, "Hey, get away from those boats. That's my life.
Yeah.
I don't have any other way out of here if somebody didn't come to get me." And they started to come towards him, and he said, "I'm warning you," And so they looked at each other and got in their boat and left. Well, they turned it into the Forest Service that there was a crazy guy in there with tents, and they was going to shoot him. So here come the Forest Service, and by the time they got it all straightened out, the Indians were in trouble.
Good.
For damaging the boat,
Yeah.
But that's just the way sometimes up there, there's stuff like that can happen. There's white people that have areas up there that they try to protect, and they don't want anybody else hunting in there. And I don't know whether you ever realize it or not, but have you ever heard of the Golden Triangle in Alaska?
I've heard of that, John. I watched that on a show. I don't know, a couple of months ago, about the triangle. The Alaskan Triangle is what they called it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. That's why I wanted to ask you. Like, you're out there all the time by yourself. You're looking up at the stars. What do you see?
Well, we were in the western part of that, and I never knew it. Nobody never told me about it, and I didn't live up there. I had to go straight to the hunting and hunt.
Yeah.
And I hunted a lot of different country in there, but nobody ever told me, "Hey, watch out, something's killing people." And over 16,000 people have disappeared up there in 25 years. And it was too
16,000, John? Is that what you just said?
16,000. 16,000.
Wow.
And they haven't found.
Not a trace of them?
Some of them can, not a trace.
Nothing.
A few of them are airplane accidents.
Sure. Yeah.
And a few of them are boating accidents. The rest of them, they just don't know. Usually you find a body. I got on one deal where we had a guy disappear. We didn't know him. He wasn't in our camp, but he was a young guy that got dropped off at the lakes up above us, about 30 miles from where the river is.
Okay.
And he walked down through there, caribou hunting every year. And he was a good caribou hunter. And he one man can pack a caribou out if you bone him. So
hold on, Johnny. One man can pack a caribou if you bone it?
And bone it out.
How much does that weigh, for crying out loud?
You wind up with about 130 pounds of meat.
Oh, my God, that's a lot of weight.
Yeah, it is. But otherwise, you got to make 2 trips if you're by yourself.
Yeah, you do.
Or waste it,
Yeah, yeah.
If you cut all the bones out of it, you get rid of a lot of the weight.
Gotcha.
But this guy, they never found anything like that on his on his track. He started at those lakes, and he came down, and he was supposed to be at a little creek where I was working there in that area then at that time, and we'd go by there every day. But if we saw somebody, we'd stop, but we never saw anybody. And then it came out he was late getting in. He was supposed to be there. We'd been gone a week too long. They never found him.
Wow. Well, John.
And that's just one. Well, there was another old guy that just disappeared, but I think he was old. He probably died out in the woods somewhere.
Well,
couldn't get back to his cabin.
In your opinion of your age, what you know about the universe, what you know about humanity, everything else, do you think there is life besides ours?
Oh, definitely. No, you can't deny it now. Even the people in Washington, D.C. are acknowledging it.
Okay.
The planes, people in jets flying around run into it all the time. They just tell them to take a picture and leave them alone.
Yeah.
There's too many sightings and too many things that have happened that it can be all a farce.
And if I could ask your opinion, John, on this Bigfoot lore, we touched on it last time a bit, but I wanted to touch on it again because I am so awed by the fact that we have never found remains or anything. And I think the last time we talked, we thought maybe it was a portal that they were going from one to the other, and that's why. Another dimension. Yes, that's why we don't find anything. Is that your take on that?
That's the same take I have.
Okay.
There's so people can't. It's been reported so much. All these missing sightings, of Bigfoot. I mean, if there's a bear out in the woods, sooner or later somebody's going to see one.
Gotcha.
In the woods long enough.
Yeah.
But these things are smart, and somehow they seem to be able to escape even being shot, unless they are a complete accident to them, and if somebody gets a look at them.
Yeah.
But in Alaska, they found places where they think the Bigfoot have done it because the Bigfoot puts up trespassing signs around their areas in Alaska, and it's a tree pulled out of the ground and stuck in the roots up in the air and the tree down into the ground.
That would be pretty.
You see that? Yeah.
You better get out of
there.
there.
There's somebody there that doesn't want you there.
Yeah,
and that happens a lot in Alaska, but they found that in California too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to wonder because there's so much evidence out there that Bigfoot is here, but yet, like I told you, we can't ever find anything, definitive like a skull or a body or anything. And it's like they have to be able to get out of here when they want to and come in when they want to, I guess. That's what I'm seeing.
Well, I told you the stories about Granite Basin.
Well, yeah, you did tell that last time, and about how up by Quincy you had that issue with, I had
an issue with it. Two old people in my camp, my bear camp. They were sitting around the campfire. All they did was come up and camp in the campground there that I had and ride their four-wheelers. They like to ride four-wheelers, and they just putt around all the roads.
Uh-huh.
They were sitting there having a drink and had a fire going, like October, and they heard something coming down the hill. There's a little creek, and they could hear it splash water a couple times and hit a tree and make noise. And then they didn't hear it anymore, and the guy down the road had horses, and horses sometimes would come up and look at you. But no, never bothered. They'd just come and look at you.
Yeah.
Anyway, they started hearing somebody scream in the woods, and the next thing they knew, there was big rocks being thrown at them, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what it was, and they hollered to stop. They didn't stop. They just kept coming faster. So they got in their camper and locked the doors. And the guy, he had a 38 special. It was funny. He told me, I'm going to protect my wife to the death with this 38 special. And I said, well, what are you going to do if it's a 600-pound bear or a pack of outlaws? I said, put that 38 away. Maybe they'll let you stay alive. But anyway, and another time in Granite Basin, I've told you before, Tim Vieira and I were walking down the creek. We had finished fishing. We had our limits of trout. And something stunk like holy hell in the brush off to the right. And when we tried to walk over there, something big jumped up and took off running. And we got over there, and there was a few bones there, but it looked like a big bed.
Mm-hmm.
And it stunk really bad. And they say those Bigfoots stink.
Well,
I mean, they don't get many showers, I imagine.
let me ask you this, John. You're telling me about this Granite Basin, but you wanted me and Steve to go up there and fish by ourselves. Was this the same time? Were you trying to set us up, or what the hell's going on?
Hey, when I was a kid, the minute I had a way up there, I would go up there as I got older.
Because I never heard anything about this when we were younger, John. You never told us anything.
Well, I hadn't heard anything either, except one of the uncles that showed me where to fish there. I was 10 years old, maybe 8 years old, and he was a school teacher in Oroville. He was a nice guy, Lowell Hickson, and he taught me how to fish there, and I caught more trout in that creek and the other little creeks around there than anywhere in the country.
Yeah. It was a good place to fish, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but then there was a camp of guys back away. They didn't fish. They'd be up there every hunting season for the whole hunting season. And I happened to be camped in there at a gold miner's cabin that let me use it. And I hear all this shooting, bang, 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 in the middle of the night. I mean, 30 shots.
Oh, jeez.
And it was coming from, I knew those guys were up there because I'd seen the truck go by. So next day I go up there and there's one of them sitting there, and I said, hey, did you guys have an experience last night or what? He says, well, something came into our camp, and there was 5 of them, and it started screaming and throwing rocks. And he said, so we could see a figure up there, so we all shot at it. And he said, it ran off. We couldn't find any blood or anything. But he said, I don't know. He said, we thought it was a bear till they started throwing rocks.
You've never, John, in all your instances, known bears to be able to pick up a rock and throw it, correct?
Never have.
Never have. And you are the bear guru. So if you say no, then it's got to be something else.
In Alaska at night, if I was camped out and a bear came into camp, I didn't go screw with him. I just grabbed my pistol close and a flashlight.
Yeah.
If he tried to come in the tent, then I would do something.
Sure.
One came and did that to me, and I was by myself waiting for clients the next day. And there was all my gear was in the boat because these people wanted to fish when we weren't hunting, and I had all the poles in the boat. That damn bear wrecked everything.
Oh.
But he drank a quart of outboard motor oil.
Did it hurt him?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know, but I mean that day when we were walking up the hill, it was the greasiest piles of shit I ever saw in my life. And I told the game warden about it. I said, I didn't try to hurt that bear, but I said, what happened? He said, he's dead. He said that oil gets inside their organs and they can't digest anything.
Oh no. Greasy piles. Oh man. Well, all the times, like I said, you're not just recounting your experiences at Granite Basin, you're recounting other people's experiences in that area. There's something going on up there, John. Why is that? Why there? Why not in Trinity? Why not? What is that such a hot spot for?
If there's more and more of them, like is what you think has happened, because they're seeing them everywhere now. All the states have had sightings.
Yeah.
They've branched out and moved off
to
different areas. And I think when they have trouble in an area, they'll leave it for a while. Now, if it was a good place to find food, they'll come back some other time.
Well, you used to know a miner, John, in that Granite Basin area. Did you ever pick his brain about stuff like that?
Yeah, and he didn't want to talk about it too much because he had to live there by himself all winter in that mine.
Yeah.
But he said there was something going on crazy around there. He heard noises at night, but he carried a rifle with him everywhere he went.
Uh-huh.
Which I never did when I was trout fishing. I'd have a pistol, but I didn't ever carry a rifle.
Sure. Yeah.
And so he knew something was up, and my uncle had took us in there and showed me how to fish there. He said he'd had something in his camp one night that scared the hell out of him.
Really?
And he was right. Yeah, and there was a lot of open mines in there. When they quit mining that area, they left. They didn't clean it up, and there's a lot of really dangerous open mines. in that Granite Basin area.
Yeah.
The whole thing got destroyed by a fire 3 years ago.
That's right. Yeah, it's almost unrecognizable, John. I almost need to have you bring me back to there because I can't find it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to find. The roads have all been damaged. It got so hot that the trees burned 6 feet into the ground, the roots.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
There's a hole there, like somebody had dug a hole looking for gold or something. And a granddaughter of mine is married to a logger. He said, "Don't try to get in those holes." He said, "You get in, you can't get out." All the soil just fall in on top of you, and they're 6 feet, 7 feet deep.
Wow.
And that soil is poisonous.
Oh.
Anytime there's been a big forest fire, that stuff can be highly poisonous for a while.
Oh.
Till enough rains dilute it.
Interesting.
Well, you could go ask people in Paradise had to have all their property. They'd go in and have somebody clean up the
all the debris and everything. Yeah.
All the debris and everything, and they even had to run some of the soil through a washing process.
Wow.
So that's something else you want to think about.
Well, that's incredible because that's, like I said, when I used to go in there with you back in the old days, it's fairly easy to find. But I think we went up there for a Christmas tree hunt. We couldn't even find the freaking road that we used to go down.
All those bridges that were in there.
Yeah.
There was three bridges that are all burned up, and they fixed one. I had a guy tell me that I hunt with. He was in there this year, and they'd fixed the one down by Fraser Creek, and they were working on the one on Little North Fork and Boulder Creek.
Well, I would imagine if all this activity has ceased in there, these Bigfoot might be in there thick now. Nobody there.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any feed there.
That's true.
The whole thing burned up.
That's true.
So there's nothing to eat.
Yeah, you're right. It's. When do you think that might come back, John? A couple more years, or what's your thought on that?
Scott and I went back about 4 or 5 years ago. We got tired of just sitting around that time of the year, and so we bought bear tags. And we went up there, and we saw a couple bears, but we didn't get a shot. So I started hunting them a little different, starting to find where they were and where there was some food. They were coming out of those burned areas and going down into food that hadn't been burned on the edges.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott got a really big bear, 3:30 in the afternoon, and it was a big bear, 7.5 feet.
Wow.
And we were looking for it. And they owned some houses right at the edge of the town of Quincy. And this guy was cutting wood, and he told me, "Man, we got a bear coming in there every night, just tearing all 5 of us that are in this circle are having bear problems." And he said, "If the thing sees you, it'll chase you." And this guy was about 75, 76 years old. He didn't, he was too old to be chased. And
yeah.
So he drew me a map, and I went over there. Scott and me went home. Then the next weekend we came over, and the fire had gone through. But there were still firemen working up at the top of the ridge cleaning up.
Uh-huh.
We went back in there and got above that guy's house about a half a mile, and there was a side road, and there was this same bear's tracks walking up and down. So we turned around, we were coming down to go on another hill, and there he was standing off 80 yards off the road looking at us. And Scott saw him and said, Dad, there, that's a big bear right there. We're looking at it and said, "Yeah, hell yes it is. Go ahead, take a shot." So we got it, and it was so big we couldn't get it out of the woods. It's the two of us, and it was getting dark, so I drove up to that campfire where all the people that were fighting the fire.
Yeah.
I got there, and 4 of them came out in a great big semi-fire truck with 4 of them with front seats and back seats. I said, "Hey, you look like you're in trouble." And I said, "Well, yeah, I am." He said, "You need to be pulled out?" And I said, "No." "Well, what is it?" I said, "I got a monster bear down here. Me and my son can't get it out of the manzanita. It's so thick." And he says, "You need some help?" And I said, "Well, I'd pay you guys to help us." "Oh, hell with it." He said, "We've been doing nothing. We're bored. We're going to town and have a bear." I said, "Yeah." And so I took these 4 big guys down there. We had that bear out in 45 minutes.
There you go.
in the back of the truck. And we killed several others. But then this year we went up and hunted, and I saw one huge bear, the one I was looking for, but we didn't get a shot. It was another couple seconds we'd have had a shot.
Well, you are the guy, like I said, if I hadn't had my experience with you, I wouldn't have been able to judge a bear like my dad and my buddy Jason were. We were down in X6B. So we were just up off of 395 in the Bear Hills there. And we were sitting there watching the mountainside. We were deer hunting. We had X6B tags. This is several years ago.
Yeah.
And we saw this black dot start to move towards us, John, and we got the spotting scope on it. I said, that is a massive bear. Dad looked at it and he goes, that bear's bigger than the bear that I killed with Johnny. And
well, they're there.
None of us had a tag, but we watched this bear, John, walk within 60 yards of us, and we were all just kind of nervous, even though we all had deer rifles. It was still, because of you, that gave me the idea of what a big bear was. And I'm pretty sure if you were with us, you would have been like, holy mackerel, that is a bear.
Yeah. When you see a big one, you know it.
You know it. You could see the fat roll. I mean, it was just like a mini grizzly coming at us, and you were like, "Oh my gosh!" But yeah, it's a real treat, And unfortunately, like you said, we can't hunt them in California anymore. And from what I've heard, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a bear will go kill a deer. Let's just say a doe, fawn, whatever it is. And then the mountain lion will come and kick the bear off, and the bear will go kill another one. Is that correct, Johnny?
No, it's just the opposite.
Just the opposite.
A lion will kill a deer.
Okay.
They're a lot better deer hunters because that's what they do to stay alive.
Okay.
They bury it. They eat what they want. They drink all the blood out of the liver, and they eat good parts of the meat. Then they cover it up and try and bury it.
Okay.
To come back because it'll be good. It's okay in the mountains. The meat won't spoil for a week or so. And that bear's got such a good nose. He gets on a lion moving across his country. He'll just get on the track.
Okay.
And that lion, if he follows that lion far enough, that lion will have a bear or have a deer.
Oh.
And then the bear just takes it away from the.
So the lion comes back. He wants to eat some more, and the bear's like, "Get out of here."
Bear just says, "Get out of there."
Yeah.
Now, if it's a small enough bear, the lion might do something.
Okay.
But if it's a big 300-pound bear and the lion's 100 to 150 pounds, they know they're not going to get the best of it.
And that, John, brings me back to another point. That's kind of why I'm thinking you're agreeing with me. That's why our deer herd is suffering so bad in California, is because of the lions and the bears. Is that right?
You haven't seen it bad yet. All the game in that X6A and B, nobody saw any bucks this year. Very few people. Nobody saw any deer. And I know a guy that works up there, and he said, "John, there's 2 packs of wolves."
Oh.
The one pack came out of Taylorsville when this fire, right into the X6A, I guess, is right there by Chester. No,
by Portola.
Well, Portola's, right. Portola's the kind of the line. The X-foot.
X6B is just farther north. Yeah.
Yeah, Frenchman's.
Yes, Frenchman's is X6B. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. So, that. Well, the guy that I'm not going to tell you his name because he might get mad at me, but him and his boy had tags for that this year, that X6A. And he scouted every weekend. He was up there even during the week sometimes. He saw 3 forked horns in about 4 trips up there.
That's pathetic.
They were down in somebody's yard by the Quincy.
Yeah.
I just happened to see him and a couple of does. Scott and I have been over there this year, and we've seen like 4 does hunting. And this is like 3-day hunts, hunting dawn to dark for bears. So we're moving around a lot. And we haven't seen a good buck in there yet. We didn't even see a buck. Saw one little spike.
So is the worst case scenario for California wolves, bears, or mountain lions?
Well, mountain lions have been here forever.
Yes.
Nobody's ever, and they're not going anywhere because you can't hunt them.
Yeah.
So if they don't kill a deer, they probably don't have anything to eat.
Yeah.
Unless they go into town and scrounge something.
Yeah.
But the bears, they've got other stuff they can live on. Grubs, they're smarter than a lion. They take grubs out of rotten
berries,
trees,
all that kind of stuff, right?
Manzanita, berries. acorns, when I left we were over there a week ago. When I left, all the acorns were falling. There's a good acorn crop.
Oh, okay.
But with all these storms, I can't go back over there till the storms
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's the X6B and X6A. The deer just got wiped out.
That's
two packs of wolves. There's a pack that's on Mount Huff there by Quincy, and there's a pack that's over towards Portola.
Now, these wolves come from the Yellowstone, correct?
Yeah, this is all the Yellowstone planting that they did like 20 years ago. There's some huge. The biggest pack of wolves in California right now is at Clear Lake.
Clear Lake.
Clear Lake on the
my
coast.
God.
Everybody's been complaining. I guess they've got into some. Everybody over there's got to go to a sheep or a cow.
And they got a massive elk herd over there that they're trying to grow.
Yeah. Well, believe me, those wolves will take care of those elk.
Oh boy. Wow. Well, Johnny, I'll tell you right now, is there anything else you want to talk about while we're here? Because I got all the time in the world, but if you're good, whatever you want to do, my friend.
Oh, we could sit here and do all day long about different hunts. But I pretty well got over it. We've talked about several things.
Well, I'll tell you right now, what we'll do is maybe the next time we do this, we will talk about hunts and what you've done over your life and, all those kind of things. And if you want to maybe try to write that out or get it so it jogs your memory so that when we talk about it next time, we can do that. I'm just ecstatic that we can do this and you're in Fallon and I'm here. I mean, that's pretty cool,
It's pretty neat. I didn't think any more about it. I thought, well, I'll have to go back over there if he wants to do some more.
No, and I think this will work out really well. I just figured out how to work this stupid board, and I'm like, I'm calling Johnny to see if he wants to do a podcast with me again.
Well, we could talk about different guns for different animals, but we've talked about that. And besides that, most of the good hunters I know, you don't have to tell them what to use. They know from hunting.
Yeah.
What works for them and what doesn't work for them.
But there's so many people out there, John, that are new to that, and they don't have a clue about it. And that's why I think your knowledge is so critical to them, because nobody knows that except you.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
A lot of guys will shoot a bear if they don't have dogs. The bear gets up and runs off. So they look for it, and the bears don't bleed good because they have all that thick fur on them.
Yeah.
Just a very little bit of blood. So they wind up losing the bear. They can't find it.
Yeah. And you told me earlier when I was younger, John, right, that the bear's vital organs are much smaller as far as than a deer. Is that right? Like their chest cavity, all that stuff is really compacted in there. Is that right?
It's in a different position. It's down a little bit lower.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense.
So you get a shot, you shoot one in the lungs, they're allowed to live for a day or two. They're that tough. If you shoot a bear's heart and blow it up, and I've done this several times, opened the animal up to clean it, and the heart's damn near gone, that bear stayed alive over a minute.
Wow.
And I got talking to some other hunters, and they said, they talked to a biologist, and the guy said, without their heart, they don't go deceased or die, lose consciousness for over a minute to a minute and 10, 15 seconds.
Wow.
And I've seen it happen.
I bet. Yeah, exactly. I remember when you would bring bears back and we would open them up there, there wasn't a lot of room in there. It was really kind of compact from what I remember versus like a deer or something like that.
Their rib cage is more like kind of like a human. It circles,
Okay. All right.
And it starts out small up at the neck and then gets bigger as it goes back. But they're built different than they're built for action.
Gotcha.
Because they fight each other just like wild pigs.
Yeah.
The big boars run the show.
And that's what I want to maybe we'll hit on that next time, John. Your wild pig escapades you've done. Your escapades with the wild pigs. I know you got a lot of them because I remember listening to you when I was a kid.
We don't have enough pigs around California. There was some in the Buttes, and I had permission to hunt them for several years. But then people sold the property, so I can't go in there anymore. and they tried to kill all the pigs out of there. The Fish and Game wanted to turn it back into a nature conservancy.
Oh, jeez.
Last thing I heard, they were killing pigs they were using poison in traps.
Oh, yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, you know.
That's Fish and Game for you. Well, listen, John, I can't thank you enough, bud, for answering my call today and for doing this show with me. I really think it's cool for everybody to hear your stories, what you have to say. I really can't thank you enough, Johnny.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me participate. Here, say hi to Susie real quick.
Sue, love you, dear.
Love you too. Listen, you kids have a nice Thanksgiving, and I hope everything goes well with Brady's senior year.
I appreciate that, Susie. Thank you and Johnny for all that you've done for me over my lifetime. I appreciate it, dear.
Oh, and you're welcome.
All right.
You were an added person to our family. Even Sarah agrees.
Love you guys. You guys take it easy.
Okay,
all right,
bye-bye.
Bye.